Hi, welcome to the video. Last weekend I was on a live stream hosted by the French Vinyl Addict, which had Ben Rankins from Australia and Brian the Embryonic Robot from Canada, along with myself. And one of the things that we did is we talked about our respective channels. And I must admit I'm a little bit reluctant to talk so much about the channel because I know that what I do is my channel is kind of a journal really. And so I do videos about music like this one, but I also do videos about current affairs, cycling and hiking trips and so on and so forth. And the purpose of it really is to kind of entertain myself in retirement and create a little bit of a library or legacy of content that I might look back on in the future, or my family might look back on. And the other guys were just talking about their music. Their purpose of their channels was about the music. And one of the things that the whole discussion, that little bit of this part of the discussion there, was a bit of a reminder to me to actually get back a little bit to what the purpose of the channel was. And I remembered that I started um, kind of an annual um, kind of a reflection on what was happening in my life, but also maybe a little bit what's happening in the round, in the grand scheme of things, but also the best 20 albums of each year. And I started in 1972 and I've worked my way up to 1978, and it's taken me forever. But today I'm going to do about 1979. I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the best albums, the most important albums to me that were released during that year. And I'm going to run down from 20 to number one, and I'll probably lose count along the way. So I've got a bit of a list here, which will hopefully remind me what number each album is. So what was I doing? Well, 1979, I'd been working for 3 years in various administration roles for the local transport executive, running bus services and metro services and so on and so forth. And I was edging up the greasy pole ever so slowly. I mean, I didn't have a career, I had a job or a series of jobs. And a big change was going to come in 1980 and 1981. But at this particular point, I was just having fun. I was a young guy, um, going out with mates, going to football matches, going to gigs, um, hanging out with girlfriends, and so on. And spending all my spare cash on buying records. So, as I say, changes were not too far away into the future, but this was kind of a bit of a really nice period for a typical young person. Is that you got a little bit of money in your pocket, but you've got no responsibilities. And although I was renting a flat with a couple of flatmates, it was um, you know it wasn't so much of a burden as long as I had more cash at the end of the week. Still a little bit of cash left in my pocket at the end of the week. It was a good week. So bands, bands I was seeing and artists I was seeing. I've got some uh, tickets because I've retained some of my tickets, and I'm sure I've got the remainder somewhere in the garage. But these are the bands I saw, almost all in Newcastle, but I'll mention if it's not. During 1979, the Jam, Joe Jackson's band, Joe Jackson, John Miles. Music was my first love, and it will be my last. Lena Lovitch. Stiff record fans will know that one. Um, Legendary Genesis guitarist Steve Hackett. Bob Geldof leading the Boomtown Rats. Gary Newman, and Two-Way Army. And the support act here was the Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, um, with what's the name, McCluskey. Anyway, there's the two guys, but basically with a reel-to-reel tape machine behind them playing the backing track. Um, the Reading Festival. I could talk about all the bands that were there. I still got my wristband from that 1979. Manfred Mann's Earth Band. Status Quo, The Mighty Rush, Kate Bush at Sunderland Empire on the only tour she ever did. She had a residency at the Hammersmith Apollo just a few years ago, but that was the only tour she did. John Miles again, and then at the Mayfair in Newcastle, the Specials. So those are some of the bands I saw that year. I was going to a lot of gigs. So anyway, there I am in Newcastle, bit of money in my pocket, going to see lots of bands, buying lots of records, and here I am now in 2024 reflecting on what are the best 20. And let me run down them. So number 20, the 20th best album in my judgment from 1979 is Setting Suns by The Jam. So what have we got here? I don't listen to this very much these days. Girl on the Phone, Thick as Thieves is great. Private Hell, The Eaton Rifles, a big hit single. Yeah, I was going to see The Jam as I showed the ticket before. Not just myself, but I was starting to take my younger brothers as well, who are big fans. So yeah, great album. That's the original UK sleeve with the embossed font. Number 19. Remind me if I lose count, will you? And that is Robert Fripp and Exposure. Now, I was a bit of a fan of early King Crimson, but kind of lost touch a little bit. But I'll tell you why this one caught my attention is because he's got a whole host of guests on this album. So who have we got? We got Phil Collins on drums. We've got Brian Eno. Peter Gabriel sings there. A much more sedate version of Here Comes the Flood on this album. Daryl Hall, Peter Hamill, Tony Levin, Jerry Marotta, Sid McGuinness. So a lot of Peter Gabriel's touring band there. But that's a really eclectic mix of Frippatronics and some singing. So it's really good. Number 19. Number 18 is the second album by Dire Straits, which is Communique. And this has Lady Writer was the single. Really great album. Stands up today. So that's, I say I've already lost count. So that's 20, 19, 18, 17, and that's Look Sharp by Joe Jackson. What a great high energy album. This was before Joe started to do that kind of New York, American kind of style, more, dare I say it, middle of the road. This is where he was really edgy and punky and energetic. But this is absolutely great from beginning to end. Is She Really Going Out With Him was the single, of course, but One More Time, Baby Stick Around, Fools in Love, Got the Time, real high energy, punky like tracks, but of course, Happy Loving Couples is great as well. Fools in Love, bit of a hint of the ballady type style he was to adopt a little bit later on, but that's a great album on A&M Records. Any in a sleeve? Nope. Right, number 16. I'm guessing numbers now. Bob Till You Drop by Ry Cooder. Saw Ry Cooder, I think this is 78 at City Hall. But this is great. I think someone once told me, it says on the back here about this digital recording. Is it one of the first, or the first digital recorded rock album? But anyway, whatever you think about it, it probably doesn't stand up to analog purist judgment these days. But this has got some fantastic songs on it. Little Sister, Go Home Girl, The Very Thing That Makes You Rich, Makes Me Poor, Down in Hollywood, Trouble, You Can't Fool Me. Great album. Bob Till You Drop by Ry Cooder. The Specials debut. A Message to You, Rudy. And of course, Too Much Too Young. Great band. This one had to appear, didn't it? Now, what's that one? Number 14. You know what that one is. Not my favourite album. I did see Roger Waters do a performance about 10 years ago at Manchester Arena. And I just went up there last minute, just on my own. I thought, I'll see if I can get a ticket. I'll just drive up. It's only an hour and a bit up the road. And it was absolutely amazing. Amazing spectacle. And as an album from beginning to end and as a concert spectacle, it works really well. As an album that you dip into here and there, it's got a lot of filler. It feels like it's got a lot of filler. But many of you will be well familiar with that album, of course, and the hit single. My first Van album, Into the Music, Bright Side of the Road. I bought this um, because I was obliged to buy a record every month from a music club. And I heard about this guy, but didn't really know much of his music. Brown Eyed Girl I'd probably heard without realizing it was kind of Van Morrison. But that was the first of many Van Morrison albums. In fact, I think I probably got the set. So yeah, Into the Music, which was boom, 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 13. So number 12 is the debut album by Ricky Lee Jones. It's a classic. It still sounds great. I know people aren't particularly keen on this one always, because I think in the United States this is so well known, less so in the UK, but this is a really really good album. Drums Steve Gadd, yeah, yeah, lovely album. Typical late night listen, but that's great. Number 11, Steve Hackett, his third solo album, his second after leaving Genesis. There's the guy there. It's a mixed album, and one of the things that I often say about Steve Hackett is that long needed an editor. He needed someone to play off, who would rein in his temptations to capture sounds from and musical styles from all around the globe. And it makes for most of his albums are an eclectic. They're a bit incoherent sometimes. The guitar playing is often beautiful. Um, but he needs someone to push back, and I don't think he got that enough, and he hasn't got that enough, and it started to really show itself on this album. The opening track, Every Day, has got a blistering guitar solo on it, which is fantastic. It's still a highlight in his live set up to this present day. And Spectral Mornings, the title track, closing out the album, is kind of epic as well, but very varied selection. Good album though, good album. So that was number 11. Number 10 sounds massive, and that is Eat to the Beat by Blondie. Um, what a great album. Dreaming, Union City Blue, Atomic, just sounds fantastic. Produced by Mike Chapman. Yeah, great album. Wonderful. So, you see, I'm forgetting even as I go around. So, number 9, Squeezing Out Sparks by the fantastic Graham Parker and the Rumor. This is his first 3 albums, are all excellent. This is where the kind of the sound was updated. Jack Nietzsche produced this one. This is suddenly it's just like his career just burst forth. It's got so many good tracks. It hasn't got a bad track on it. It's got, Saturday Night is Dead, Love Gets You Twisted, Protection is great. Waiting for the UFOs, Discovering Japan. It's got this wonderful ballad, You Can't Be Too Strong, which I think it's about story associated with abortion, but it's a wonderful song. Wonderful song. Yeah. Squeezing Out Sparks. Number 8, the 8th best album of 1979, at least for me, was Manifesto by Roxy Music. Why? Dance Away. Used to play that to death. Absolutely fantastic song. And this album is superb. Probably overlooked in their career because they became ever so smooth by the time they got to Avalon. And the earlier, really edgy stuff was kind of the thing that the music critics were hanging on to. And this was just that blend of just getting a little bit too smooth for the critics, but it stands up today. It's still really good. Number 7. Let me just double check that it is number 7. Yes, it is. And it is George Benson, Living Inside Your Love. Now, this is a cutout down here. I bought this cheap. Probably bought this when Gimme the Night came out. But this is a I wouldn't exactly say it's the bridge between his jazz style and his more soulful style, Rod Temperton pop kind of music that came with Give Me the Night. This is very much a soul album with just wonderful, wonderful creamy guitar on it, and his vocals are just beautiful. Standout tracks. The title track is great. Love Ballad is great. Unchained Melody is wonderful. Um, but the whole thing just is so smooth. It's a double album. Fantastic. Fantastic album. That wonderful guitar there as well. So that's number 7. Number 6, the 6th best album. My favorite, Neil Young, Rust Never Sleeps. What a breakthrough here. Hey, my, hey, hey, and hey, hey, my. Thrasher, Pocahontas, Powderfinger, fantastic. And the live album that went with this one, I think some of this was live, but the live Rust album that came alongside this one, and the film was shown in the cinemas, which we saw, is fabulous as well. Brilliant album, brilliant album. So number 5 is going to be Risky by Chic, and we'd had Le Freak and I Want Your Love. This is where you got Good Times, My Forbidden Lover, My Feet Keep Dancing, A Warm Summer Night. This is a great album. This is where you get a real sense of the band. You know, Nile Rodgers, Bernard Edwards, and Tony Thompson on drums. Absolutely they created a fantastic sound. This was a more mature album, I think, than the previous one. And I think Good Times lasts about 8 minutes. It's absolutely fantastic, and you probably know that as well. So that's number 5. Number 4 is another album that leapt out of the speakers after the kind of slightly thin-sounding first 2 albums, and that was Tom Petty's third, Damn the Torpedoes. It's like a greatest hits. Fantastically energetic album. Opens with Refugee, Here Comes My Girl, Even the Losers, Don't Do Me Like That, What Are You Doing in My Life, and the lovely Louisiana Rain. Just fabulous album. Fantastic. That's number 4. Number 3, the third best album was the Punk Pretenders, and that is the Police and Regatta to Blanc, Regatta to Blanc, which has got Message in a Bottle. And at Reading, on the Reading Festival, they premiered Message in a Bottle on the main stage, and it was fantastic. But this is just, again, it's just a bit like the first album with a little bit more polish this time around, but it's got the Bed's Too Big Without You, Walking on the Moon. Yeah, classic album. You probably know that one too. 2 albums left. The top 2 albums of 1979. And the first one, I think, was released in the United States in 1980, but for us, it's 79. And that is London Calling by The Clash. What a fantastic album. One of the albums I've played at least 100 times over the years. Just side 1 is just amazing. London Calling, Brand New Cadillac, Jimmy Jazz, Hateful, Rudy Can't Fail. But it's also got The Guns of Brixton, Lost in the Supermarket, Revolution Rock. Oh yeah, Death or Glory. Yeah, fantastic album. Number 2, almost number 1. So what is the best album for me in 1979? It's this one. The Ruts and the Crack. What a fantastic cover that is. If you find this cover, if you got this album, you've got various famous people here with the Ruts sitting in the middle here. What a band. So energetic and kind of proper punk live. They did reggae dub better than the Clash did. It's just an absolutely fantastic album. So you've got Babylon's Burning, Dope for Guns, Sus, Something That I Said, You're Just a It Was Cold, Life's a Savage Circle, 7 minutes of reggae and Jah War, Criminal Mind, Backbite Out of Order, and Human Punk. Absolutely fantastic album. My favorite album of 1979. Get a hold of it if you haven't got it. If you like punk, if you're a fan of punk, you'll know this album definitely. So that was a kind of a rush through 1979. So there we have it, 1980. It's the end of a decade, isn't it? 1980, rather than the beginning of a new one. We'll see you next time. See you in the next video. Bye for now.